first thing, just going to take you through the little beat that I have here, so you can see how I've done it. I have a little drum piece here that I liked, and just going to solo it. First of all, let's go ahead and preview this piece so you can hear what the actual beat is. Actually a loop. It's a beat loop that I have. So let's take a listen. Okay, so we got that beat loop there. Now the key thing about it is not really the beat loop that I'm using. I'm not really using that, as you can tell down in here. I'm not using that loop as is. All I'm using is the instruments. And here's what I mean by that. You can see I'm using that. I like the hi-hat out of it. And I also like the snare. But let's go ahead and take a listen here. Let's check it out. See what I did here. Okay. And this piece right here, the first thing it took me to, and I really didn't intend it when I first started out, but once I played that little part, the first thing it took me to was Moody, Shook Ones, and that very first beginning with that hi-hat and that snare. It wasn't my original intent, but once I heard it, I definitely loved it even more. So that was the first part. That was the very first thing that I started with, was that hi-hat and that snare. I just used that in order to set up the rest of my beat. So you understand what I'm talking about. I used these two, that's the hi-hat and that snare, that sets my rhythm, because I don't use a quantize. I don't quantize. I played this by hand, and by playing it by hand, that sets my rhythm for the rest of my beat construction. So when I come down here to where I'm actually playing the rest of the beat, go down here to this redrum down here, and I'm going to play that same piece. Now, everything else is built off of that hi-hat and that snare. That sets the rhythm. So that means my kick drum and everything else is going to be going off of that hi-hat and that snare from above. So let's take a listen. So that's my rhythm. And now here comes the beat. Nothing special at all. Real basic. Real basic with the beat. Okay. So we see that the beat itself is real basic, at least that level of it is. And then when I come down, I add another little part. I just do a lot of layering. I got another little part of that beat where I'm adding, I think this is the shaker down here, but just take a listen to it. That's all it is. I'm just adding a shaker. Adding a shaker. And the shaker just gives it a little bit more movement. But the beat is really basic. See how basic that beat is. So like I don't go all out as far as trying to make, you know, crazy beats or nothing. Usually the simpler the better. I mean, simpler the better. That's kind of how it works. But for this particular track, I also added in some percussion elements in order to kind of like make the beat part move. Just check this out here and you'll see what I'm talking about. I got a little bit of a bottom percussion, kind of like a conga. Play that one. And I have some other pieces like a high part, so you can take a listen to that too. Okay, so this is pretty much just the beat, and this is, at this part right here, this is like my first verse, the first verse of the song, as you can tell here as in the layout. And now I'm getting ready to come out and go back to the verse. All right, actually it's coming out going to the chorus, I'm sorry. So I finished that. That just shows you my first verse and coming out into the chorus. And let's go ahead and add some more pieces. I'll play this little middle piece I got here for you so you can check that out as well. Now, this piece right here is actually a flute, and I'm going to show you is a sampled flute that I use, and I actually had to tweak it down a little bit in order for it to play along with the sample so it'll sound right. But here's the actual sample. And I'm triggering all of this. I'm triggering this sample with my MPD. The MPD controller is doing the same thing it would do for all the rest. So all I'm doing here is using the MPD32 controller to trigger the samples in these devices. That's all I'm doing. There's nothing special about it. It's just that I can select on it right now and just trigger that device. So that's all you're doing. You're just triggering it. Now, how does that fit? Let's go ahead and take a listen to the sample. And I'll go ahead and add now the sample into the whole mix so you can see how that sounds, or you can hear how that sounds, and we'll move on from there. So, this is coming from my verse. Let's go ahead and start from the beginning. I'll let you listen to it from the very beginning. Here's the beginning sample. Now, this is the same thing that you heard in Recycle. And this is just so you can get a taste of what's coming up next. And this is just giving you the original sample, so you kind of, if anybody knows the sample, they'll be like, oh, this is what he used. Now I'm going to show you my flip. All right. Now this is my flip. This is how I'm going to use this sample. And I'm setting the tone for my track. Okay, there's my Mobb Deep type style beat right there at the beginning to set it up. All right, now you're listening to the flip. Okay, you're checking out my flip. This is my flip right here. This is the chorus. Now we're gonna go out. Check it out. Verse 1. There's that flute. Coming out to the verse, chorus. All right, so I've given you the chorus, the verse, and coming back out to the chorus again. And that's just some small pieces so you can hear how basic the beat is. Now I'm going to add in some more pieces.